be aware that you are, we are going to go ahead and record and archive this webinar. Okay, so let me go ahead and introduce myself. I'm not sure, Dr. McDonald said he wanted to say something, so I'm waiting to see if he's going to hop on here. If not, oh, there he is. I'm going to let him talk.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our webinar. Just as a reminder, this is being provided to you today by the South Carolina Association for Middle-Level Education. First and foremost, we appreciate you all being members, and we look forward to hearing some great things from Sarah, our first presenter in our May series of webinars this year. We have some great webinars that will be coming up next week and the following week, so if you've not registered for those yet, please take an opportunity to do so. We look forward to some great information today. In our 1 hour together, Sarah has agreed to present and take some questions. So at the end of this, there'll be an opportunity for you to ask your questions. And now I'll turn it over to Sarah Evanson-Atkinson, who will be presenting this afternoon.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining me for this hour. We are going to do a couple of different things during our time together today. I am going to be using, so if you are joining us today on a computer or or if you have access to another device that you can use at the same time, we are going to go ahead and use Menti if you're not familiar with that. And we'll walk you through how to get there, not a problem. But we're going to use that sort of simultaneously so that we can gather up everyone's input. And because this really is a collaborative discussion about all of this content and information we're going to talk about today really is for collaborative discussion. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And if you can't see it at any point, please make sure you say something so that I can fix it. All right, so what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about, there are a lot of teachers who want our students to create during this time of quarantine and school closure, and it's difficult because we can't just say to our students, hey, in a year or so, maybe more, you'll look back on this time and you'll be able to, and what you create today will become primary source documents. Go ahead and make some of those. Crickets, right? We hear crickets. So it's all about, for us as the educator, providing the right task at the right time. And sometimes the questions seem really, really bizarre. All right. So here's the sort of truth of the matter. We don't sit down and write primary source documents. They're born, just like BMWs. So quick story, if you'll oblige me. All right, so earlier in the school year, I took a group of students, 8 boys, to go visit the BMW plant in Spartanburg. And I had never been to the BMW plant. It's an amazing facility. You could eat off the floor. It's so clean and so efficient, just unbelievably, it's just a really unbelievable manufacturing location. And one of the cool parts of the, one of the cool moments, I guess, in the life of the creation of a BMW happens actually toward the end of the line. So the BMW is put together by hand and by robot, and there's all these different parts, moving parts to this, of course. And one of the last steps is when they put the little icon on the front of the BMW. And that is called, this is very private now, but that is called spanking the baby. And you can ask anybody who works at BMW. And there are certain folks, it's a special mallet that's used, and there are certain folks who are able to spank the baby. They've been trained to do that. And at that point, that vehicle is now a BMW. So we don't just sit down and write primary source documents, just like BMWs don't roll off the line, and then are sold to anyone. Each BMW is put together and built specifically for the owner who has already prepaid for that vehicle. So they already have someone's name on that car. Just like these items that we're going to ask our students to create over the next couple of weeks, that is the stuff. That's what's going to become primary source documents. All right, so as I said, if you have access to another device, or if you if you're watching and you're participating in this on and on your computer and your laptop, you can go ahead and split the screen. If you'll go to menti.com, you'll see right there, menti.com, and use that code 105444. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, but I'm going to go over to Menti. You can also use that QR code if that's easier, if you're going to use your phone to go on to Menti. Now, what we're going to do is, let me get over to my, too many things open. All righty, there we go. Okay, so some of you have already answered the first question. Let me go ahead and share my screen so that you can see as well. All right. All right, so our first question asks you, how would you describe your level of comfort with teaching students to become creative creators? Now, in this question on our Menti, you'll see it's kind of popping back and forth as you all are answering. So this is not, you're not identifying any of your information, right? So for yourself. So this is a collection of data from your whole collective group. So it looks to be about fair to Midland, right? We're about halfway there. So writing, what's that? That would be like, I have no clue how to train my students to become creative creators. Or, you know what, I feel confident enough to help my students to, you know, jump on that New York Times bestsellers list. I'm that good. I'm a beast. All right, so again, looking at the data you're entering looks to be about, right, 5 out of 10. So about fair to Midland, midway. Now, here's the great news for everyone who's feeling about a 5 today. Okay, here's the great news. The great news is that we don't have to really do anything special for this. We just have to present the right tasks and the right questions at the right times so that our students demonstrate a willingness to share with us and with each other. Because this is really, as isolating as this moment in our history has been on many levels, it has brought us together in new and different ways. And so when the students are at your live sessions or when they're talking with each other, that level of communication, that level of connection is different than what we've had before. There are kids who are talking to each other, to their peers, who have never had an opportunity to do that in school, but the opportunity has presented itself here. Okay, let me go back here to my presentation so you can take a look here. So thank you for your candor. I appreciate that. So let's see, that's not what I wanted to do. Goodness gracious, here we go. All right, so I've seen a lot on social media about, well, you know, our students are just like Anne Frank. Well, look, I hate to break it to y'all, but this is in Amsterdam in 1942, and we are not Anne Frank. Anne Frank sat down and wrote her diary over a very long period of time. She was classically trained at a private school, and much of her diary, if you've ever read the piece, much of her diary isn't really anything so amazing because it was a diary. But what makes it special is the frame. What makes it special is that it was Amsterdam in 1942. Not that it was Anne Frank writing about what it was like to be an adolescent girl, but that it took place within the frame of Amsterdam 1942. So while we are not Anne Frank in Amsterdam in 1942, we do have a unique opportunity to harness the stories of our children in this unprecedented day and time. So think about, for a second, all of the phrases that we have been hearing about, think about all the phrases that we've been hearing throughout our time here that are new. We have no models for this. We're living in unprecedented times. We've never had to do anything like this. What is this? I'm just not sure of anything right now. I've sat in a lot of webinars and a lot of meetings where people are saying these things over and over. We're building the plane in the air. We have no models for this. I'm not sure. I've never done e-learning before. All of those things are truths, but they're not unique to us as the adults. And sometimes we lose sight of the fact that the same experiences that we're having as adults Our students are too. They don't have any model for this. They are living in unprecedented times. They've never had to do anything like this. They're not sure what e-learning is either. And they aren't sure of many things right now. So we can't rely on the fact that, well, our students are digital natives, and so they should be comfortable talking to each other through Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and FaceTiming, and they should be comfortable with that. They might know how to use the technology, but that doesn't mean that they're sure of everything else around it, everything that is swirling around it. All right, head back to that mentee for a second. And there's another question for you to answer. Let me pull that up. All right, we'll see what we got. Y'all, I love it when a plan comes together. Let's see here. All right, just kidding. All right, so here's what I want you to think about. I wonder if my students even notice. I wonder if my students even notice. Finish that sentence for me. I wonder if my students even notice. Sometimes I wonder if the students in our sessions even notice that their mom's hands are cracked from being washed so many times. What do you wonder if your students even notice? Notice here, I wonder if my students even notice that others are excited to see them in meet sessions. I wonder if my students even notice that step-by-step instructions have been provided. No, they don't notice that, by the way. They don't notice that at all. They're adolescents. I wonder if my students even notice that their parents are cutting back on spending. Absolutely. I wonder if my students even notice, someone put in the group chat, how much time has passed. I wonder if my students even notice all of the opportunities that surround them in the digital world. I wonder if my students even notice the stress their parents are under during this time. I wonder if my students notice that there are birds flying around. I wonder if my students even notice that I'm sitting here all day long, waiting for them to turn in work or contact me. I wonder if my students even notice that the flowers turn to face the sun. So I ask you to think about this. What would happen if you simply ask your students in a Google Meet ahead of time so they can kind of think about it perhaps? But what would happen if you said to your students, I wonder if my students even notice. What is something you noticed this morning that you've never noticed before? What would happen if you asked them to really think for a second? Now, before, and we're going to talk a lot about some make and take strategies in this session, but I want to challenge you to think about the fact that these questions may seem, the questions we're going to talk about may seem like they're not on target. Well, that's not what I want to hear from the students, but it is. Because if we ask them a direct question, how are things going during this global pandemic? I have no answer for that. But if you ask me something odd, like, what is something you noticed this morning that you've never noticed before? You'll get at something far more beautiful, far more rich for writing, for speaking, for creating, and we'll get to that in a little bit. There's a couple more in the chat that I want to make sure that I bring attention to. So I wonder if my students even notice how much we care. I hope they do. I hope they do. I hope they do notice that. All right. Now, one word of caution, and this is going to pop up over and over through here. So is it possible that one of our adolescents, as much as we love them, will answer this inappropriately? Absolutely, they will. They will, especially the ones who are angry. Anger manifests like socially unacceptable kinds of things in an adolescent. We all know that. So if and when, I should say probably when, not if, a student answers one of your questions inappropriately, socially unacceptably, then that's a time to have a conversation. That's not a time to scold. It's not a time to go after them and try to punish. It is not, because they will shut it down. And we want to be sure that they continue to communicate. Had a phone call from a teacher, email, the other day, asked a similar question to this, and one young man just lashed out, said how this whole thing sucks. I mean, just very adolescent, very typical adolescent behavior. And the teacher was panicked. And I said, we need to take a deep breath. And we need to remember that this specific child is in pain, is scared potentially, is angry about how unfair this is. We're coming up on the end of the school year and it feels very unfair. So some of these lash outs are simply, they stem from that emotional stuff that's going on in all of our students' houses right now. All right, so let's fly back over here. Let's see if we can get to where we have to be. We'll see. Whoa. Okay. All right, so let me get back here and we'll see where we are. Fabulous. Let's see. Okay. All right, so how can we help our students to overcome the plague of I have nothing to write, talk, think about, right? Because if you ask any of our students, the vast majority of them will tell you that they are bored. I don't know about you all, but I am not bored. I am busier than I've ever been. Boredom is not a word. Bored is not a word I would use to describe my day right now. But our kids are feeling that's their response. I don't have anything to write about or think about or talk about. If you were sitting in my room and you saw the same four walls over and over, and then you went to the kitchen and you got something to drink, and then you went back to the same four walls, you'd be bored too, Miss Evanson. And that's what they're thinking. But really, there's so much to talk about. All right, so frames. Frames are where it's at. Remember that Anne Frank's diary wasn't special necessarily because it was a diary from a girl. What the thing that made it special was the frame that it took place in Amsterdam in 1942, and so it provides a window into the experience of the day. All right, so here are some frames and questions that could ignite some discussion. And here's something that happens. I've been to a lot of Google Meets recently, and there's a couple different kinds of Google Meets. So there's ones where the teacher's doing all the talking and she's asking everyone to be muted, totally fine. That's one kind of Google Meet, just like our direct instruction in our classroom. All eyes on me, okay? So that would be our direct instruction. But there are also Google Meets where I've been to Google Meets where the teacher asks a question and they hear nothing. And the kids are staring at each other. Really awkward. Those are super awkward Google Meets. Now, likewise, I've been to Google Meets where the teacher asks a question and the students are responding to each other. So a couple of things, and I know that there's a webinar coming up next week, which is going to talk to how to really run a really effective Google Meet session. But I want to just make sure that the most powerful, the power that you have right now is in part in time. So whenever you're going to offer up these kinds of frames and questions to your students, it's very powerful to offer it ahead of time. So you offer them ahead of time so that your students can ponder and think and try to put together something of a response so that when you ask it in real time, they're ready. So just keep that in your back pocket. That's a really effective technique and tool. All right, so let's take a look at some of these frames and questions that will ignite your students' either talking, reading, creating, and we'll talk about different avenues and venues that you can have them present their creative work. But let's take a look at these. All right, so do Americans have it too easy? Why do you think that? Now, again, none of these questions will say, hey, how's it going in that global pandemic? It just won't, none of them will do that. All right, so what causes racism? Okay, that's a hot button topic right now, always, but especially right now with some of the things that are in the news. Don't think for a second that your kids don't know what is going on in the news. I wish they didn't know, but they do. All right, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation hires you as a consultant to figure out a way to best use $20 billion to save the world. What's your plan? Interesting one. Would you rather be beautiful or very smart? How much control over your life do you have? What makes you say that? I would love to hear some responses from some 7th and 8th graders, or even some 6th graders, talking about how much control over their lives they have. I have students who have, in my own school, who have left the country. I guarantee you they have no control over their lives right now. They feel very out of control. So it helps, again, to frame up some of their thinking. These questions also help in another way. They help the students to get the feeling and the emotions of all of this out. And we want them out. Not only so that we can use the material and be able to gift it back to them as a primary source document at some point, but also so that it gets outside of themselves. Because once the emotion, the feeling, the anger, the fear, the sadness, the happiness, the joy, once it is outside of me, then it's a whole lot less frightening for an adolescent. What would your friends say is your most lovable quality? I haven't felt very lovable, I don't know about you all, in the last several weeks. So let's shift the focus a little bit, all right? What are 3 of your most profound learning experiences? Where and when did they occur? Any kinds of questions and frames that offer us an opportunity for reflection. Now, do the students always have to write an essay in response to these? No. Do these questions always have to be your opening questions? No, they don't. Can you pick and choose? Absolutely. Some of them will, for some students, will speak at a more deep level than others. This is not a one size fits all. If you do these 5 questions, you will have the following product. That's not what these are like, and that's not in this time. That is not what this time, unfortunately, is like. All right, which classmate would be the best to lead us through a zombie apocalypse? A really cool activity for your students for a Google Meets. Pose that question, which classmate would be the best to lead us through a zombie apocalypse and why? Have them submit those to you by Wednesday. On Friday, you will, at the Google Meets on Friday, let's say, you will show who are your leaders for the zombie apocalypse are. All right, a cool writing assignment. They're reflective, allows them to communicate with their peers, allows them to connect with their peers in a sort of a fun, I guess a zombie apocalypse is rather whimsical, a whimsical way, and would be kind of cool to up your numbers, certainly at your Google Meets, because I want to see if I was picked as the best leaders for the zombie apocalypse. If the internet were to crash forever, what would the benefits be for you? Oh, goodness. There's a list I can make right now. The drawbacks, okay? You get to take 1 book, 1 food item, and 1 famous person, living or dead, to a deserted island. What and who do you take and why? All right, so again, these questions are just meant for you to think and connect and frame up where you're thinking today, where you are today. So I wanted to also all right, so here are some more. You have been selected to be king or queen of your school. What are 5 rules that every kid should follow at your school? What should the punishment be for rule breakers? All right, if a wizard could tell you anything about your future, what would you most like to know? Do you believe in luck? Are you superstitious? All right, so again, all these questions just make us think, because really we have a lot of time on our hands to think right now. All right, so take a look at this one. Imagine that it's the last day of middle school and you've been asked by a teacher to say a few words that summarize the events that have occurred over the last 3 years that are most meaningful to you. What do you say? Some of these questions are big enough to be this stuff. And what I mean by that, of course, is that some of these questions are big enough to be the stuff of the work. Teacher said to me a couple weeks ago, you know, these are really great. Some of these questions are okay for, like, you know, I'm going to use it to open my class. Really great idea to open your class with these. But if you want to get to the stuff, to the heart of the matter, we're asking our kiddos to think, and that we can live in that place here for the next couple of weeks. They're going to think it's odd at first. Some of the questions they may even say to you, why do you want to know that? But these kinds of challenges will help to frame up for them this entire experience, because this ending of the school year is missing something very important. It's missing that closure that we are so used to. So some of these activities will offer that to our students in a meaningful way. So if we gave this challenge, for example, imagine that's the last day of middle school and you've been asked by a teacher to say a few words, then we can compile all of those. Maybe we put them all on a flip grid and we compile them into one long video. And we have all of the students who decided to participate, we have all of them in a video so that they can watch each other give their few word summaries. That is the stuff. That is the stuff. That is the work of school. So please don't feel like, as we work toward the end of the school year, don't feel like you are stuck in we have to be doing what it says in the standards. Yes, we do, because we're school and that's what we do, and we're teachers and that's what we do. But the work of this time, the stuff of this time, is so much beyond the concepts and the standards at this point. All right, some more ideas. Setting the mood affects the tone. We know that. So you might also incorporate background writing music one day a week, say on Music Monday. So for some examples of music you can use in class, there's an article on here, and you're going to get this presentation so you have all of this stuff at the end. But 50 best ambient albums of all time. I guarantee you, if you give the students some mood music that is maybe energizing, you'll get different kinds of product than you would if you asked them to listen to some background music that was, say, more somber. So setting the mood clearly affects the tone. All of these, and again, I mentioned this sort of in passing, but remember, if an adolescent offers you up some information that seems too much to handle, that's when you go to your administrator, your principal, your guidance counselors. All those folks are standing by at this point. But this is a great way to get a view, to take a snapshot of where we are today, and for our students as well. I found this online yesterday and I had a field day in my brain thinking about it. Take a look at this. In 1963, the Bronx Zoo had an exhibit called The Most Dangerous Animal. In it was a mirror. What would our kids say about this today? What would our kids say about this today? This was really powerful when I found it. I just, like I said, I had a lot of time to process, and I said, oh my gosh, I can't imagine. What would our kids say about that? Seemed powerful to me. Wanted to share with you. We also have another option. Okay, so we have visual prompts that I just showed you, also some good questions. Remember that reading prompts are great, especially short ones that prompt thought. Newsella right now is wide open for us. You can go to Newsella right now. They have on the front of the Newsella website. There are lots of really great articles about different experiences people are having in different parts of the world as it relates to the coronavirus outbreak and COVID-19 and school closures and all over the world. And remember that reading prompts, while I would love to be able to have our students read, say, Contagion between now and the end of the school year, not going to happen. Short sprints will clearly win this race. So short prompts, good questions, letting them have a voice and be heard and be seen, very, very important, so that we don't feel so alone. All right, a couple of things here just that you're looking at right now on the screen. So Mr. Spock is on there, and they use that as the cover picture for an article, for example, about how people are finding new and different ways to say hello. What would happen if you asked your students, create a new way to say hello to someone, because you can't touch them. So how can we say hello in a new and different way, and what does that look like? Really cool activity, really cool activity. The middle article there, it says video games strain Italian internet as coronavirus keeps kids home. Apparently, Italian kids like to play video games too. Who'da thunk? A great way to demonstrate commonality in our global society instead of difference. When we feel alone, we tend to feel like we're alone all by ourselves. But really, that feeling of isolation is a communal feeling right now. I know that sounds bizarre, but the feeling of isolation is communal. And if we start pointing out the commonalities, it's much more difficult to feel alone. The article up on that top right-hand side, it says why tough times can create better neighbors. I love this. This was also, the photograph was from Italy, but they also reference some different places in New York. But they talk about, in the article, they talk about how, why is it that during tough times, all of a sudden, we actually are kinder to our neighbors? Why is that? So just interesting little prompts, reading prompts that prompt thought. On the bottom right-hand side, by the way, is a beautiful story about a dad in Syria who has trained his daughter to laugh at the sound of bombs. They've been in war for a very long time, and he didn't want his baby to be afraid. And so he got the sound of bombs on his phone and trained her, essentially, to laugh when she hears the bombs go off. Talk about perspective. Our kids need perspective too. As from a teacher perspective, speaking of perspective, as you are framing these kinds of activities for your students, graphic organizers help to organize thinking. I wish I would have had a graphic organizer at 2:30 this morning. My thinking was all over the place. Graphic organizers are great for that. We love doodle notes. All of that is available online, but it's just really cool. The kids like the graphic organizer idea because, again, it just organizes their thoughts, which a large portion, I should say, of the experience that they're having right now is very scattered thinking because they're distracted. Maybe they have siblings in the home and the siblings are running around and being crazy. And so there's distractions all around them in their loneliness. And so it's just a whole lot of stuff. And graphic organizers are really great for that. Okay, so providing choice in the product. So you've asked all these really cool questions and you have some really great content and the students are writing for you and they're dying to talk at your Google Meets. But how do you have them create product that's sustainable, that they can download and take with them, that you can compile and put into a book, for example? There's lots of choices. And if we provide choice to our students, the quality will go up. All right, so we have vlogs, blogs, editorials, journals, collections of vignettes, virtual TED Talks, multi-genre collections, poetry, both found and created. When you provide them choice, the quality goes up exponentially because they are choosing how to express themselves. So be thinking about how to provide choice in your products for students. Absolutely. E-learning products are all over the place, beyond Google Docs. Google Docs are great. Google Slides are great for students to be allowed to express themselves to you, that you can put them together. There are some other e-learning products that I really, really like that I want to share with you. So the one on the left, of course, is Padlet. On the right, I'm sorry, there you go, right and left, I know. On the right-hand side is Padlet. Both of these are free services and you can have access to them, and the students can contribute to them without supplying any personal identifying information, so that's super important. So I really like Padlet because you can upload videos, you can upload documents, you can upload all kinds of things, photographs, pictures, etc., JPEG images. You can put all that on a Padlet. Love Padlet. On the left is the Flipgrid. So Flipgrid is awesome for allowing students an opportunity to express themselves and to respond. The kids they've gotten really good at making videos, some of them really good and some of them not so great, but I love the Flipgrid for a couple of reasons. Number one, the kids are in control of what they ultimately upload to you, so that's very important. Also, I would highly recommend that if you use Flipgrid, make sure you phone a friend if you're unsure about how to use it. Very important that you moderate those grids. So we don't want students to feel as though they are, we don't want them to embarrass themselves unknowingly. So please make sure you moderate those videos, really important, but otherwise excellent tools. And I love these e-learning products that are available to us. All right, so perfect. Okay, so what I want to do is head back to menti.com, and I'm going to put that up one more time. We have one final question, and we will, all right, we will get there. I don't know when, but I know we will soon. Okay, here we are. Okay. All right, and it looks like someone in the chat has offered up their services with Grid too, with Flipgrid, which is awesome. So definitely take advantage of that, because that is very useful. And I'm happy, of course, if you want to email me, I'm happy to help as well on Flipgrid. But whenever anybody offers up their knowledge of Flipgrid, I want to take advantage. I want to take advantage of that if anybody needs it. Okay, all right, so let's take a look. So now after our discussion today, I've covered a lot of ground, but I on purpose left about 15-20 minutes here at the end. What are you wondering about? Go ahead and put your question in here. I'm also going to monitor the chat, and then we'll talk through the questions as you post them. And just, what are you wondering about now? What are some things that are on your mind? Really powerful question. Everyone take a look there. Can everyone see? Yes, can I get a, okay, I'm looking at kind of, let's see, thumbs up maybe? Okay, all right, so the question that was posed there, hopefully you all can see, is what will the end of this look like? Now, I would love to tell you, I don't know what the end of this will look like. We had a discussion, I recently had a discussion with our final presenter, and you all are going to hear it first here. Jack Burkmeyer has agreed to do a webinar at the end of our series, and that's one you absolutely will not want to miss. But Jack and I have been talking a lot about what will the end of this look like, and we don't really know. I don't know what the end of this will look like. I think in my own professional opinion, I think we need to keep our focus at this point on providing our students as much closure as we possibly can on this school year, because it can't, in my opinion, I don't think that we can leave this school year not having appropriate closure. So we have to do everything we possibly can to offer our students closure. And if that means that we have to make 10 videos that are tribute videos to our 8th graders and our 7th graders and our 6th graders, then as far as I'm concerned, so be it. I think we need to focus on providing our students with some level of closure and providing our faculties with some level of closure. This has been very difficult emotionally for a lot of teachers, myself included, having to go in and empty your classrooms out and having to do so maybe wearing a mask or wearing gloves and what this all looks like. And it takes a toll on us. And so I wish I had an answer, but I'm not sure. And if somebody else knows what the answer is going to be, I would love to know. All right, so how do I get my students to join Google Meets consistently? There's another, God, these are really good questions. I'm not sure I have an answer. Unfortunately, you know, it's hard because even in my own house, I have 2 students who are in the public school system, 10 and 8, and then I also have a 4-year-old running around. And honestly, they make most of their Google Meets, but sometimes they miss them because mom has to use the computer, or they're playing outside, and honestly, they're getting along and interrupt them. So I think to make your Google Meets more attractive, I think you have to kind of sell it a little bit. I think that if you ask these kinds of interesting questions ahead of time and you give the kids something to look forward to that they don't want to miss, I think that will increase your Google Meets participation quite a bit. Now, if you're really interested in learning some really cool strategies to fill your seats at Google Meets, one of our webinars for next week, I believe it's on Tuesday, is going to be head up by fellow instructional coach here in Greenville County, Julie Marlowe, and she's going to talk very specifically about how to get students to join your Google Meets and how to get them to stay. So make sure, please, that you sign up for that webinar and come spend an hour with Julie, because she's got lots of really cool ideas about that. How will we start next year for online? You know, that was another question Jack and I have been talking a lot about, and his team is actually working a lot about how the startup will look different next school year. You know, I think we need to focus on the things we've always focused on: relationships, getting students excited about school and about the work that they're going to do. And all I can say is that I hope we start next school year not online. So you didn't hear it from me. I hope we do. I can't. Oh my goodness. But if we have to, we have to. You know, if someone would have told me and I'm sure all of you are in a similar boat, but if someone would have told me in January, when we started hearing reports here about, well, what's this going on in China, and what's starting to go on, and we were starting to kind of read news reports, and if someone would have told me that the school year was going to look like this, I would have laughed and walked away from them. There is no way I would have ever believed something like this. So I don't think we know yet. I don't think we know yet, but I think that it goes without saying that we have got to focus on creating relationships and creating wonder and creating an enthusiasm about our content. And whether we have to do that virtually for a short time or not, I think that's clearly what we need to focus on. All right, so how is this changing the students and families? I think, although I can't speak to ultimately what the long-term changes will be, I think this is clearly changing our students and our families. I think a couple of positive things have come out of this. I think that our parents have a greater respect for the work that we do. I do. I think that because this work is hard. I think that some of our students have figured out that online learning is not for them, and I think some of our students have figured out that online learning is their cup of tea. In terms of changing the students, I think an adolescent is an adolescent is an adolescent, but I think there are some sustainable changes that will come. I don't know what those are yet. Here's what I wonder about. I wonder how the students will appear to us when they do come back in the building. Are they going to want more of us? Are they going to want to hug more? Are they going to want to speak to us more? Are they going to be kinder to one another? Are they going to demonstrate more gratitude? I don't know the answer to that. I'm hopeful that they will, but I wonder about that, because I find myself even noticing things like, when I go to the grocery store, have you noticed how quiet it is? Because no one will look at each other. No one will speak to each other. Everyone's supposed to be 6 feet apart, and you're not allowed to speak to one another. And I wonder what the ripple effect of all of those changes will be when the students come back to us. Someone in the chat posted a really good question. How do you grade writing about questions that make you think? So this, for me, grading is not, to me, grading is not the focus of that. So we're all about creation. So to me, in my mind, if you are participating and you are thinking, then you are winning. So I care less, me personally, I care less about saying that was an A poem or that was a B level. I would rather have everyone engage with me and enter where they are comfortable than worry about grading. So for me, I would say a participation grade. You came in where you're able, where you're ready today. Tomorrow, the question may speak to you more and you may do more. Tomorrow, the question may speak to you less and you may do less. Either way, I would say it's really all about, it's really all about sort of this engagement. All right, so this was the most meaningful way to provide closure for my students. We're doing a lot at our school, my own personal school. We're doing a lot with tribute kind of videos, and I went up to campus a couple weeks ago, and I just took, it was funny, I went up with my camera and I ended up taking pictures of where things had been left on March the 13th. That was creepy. I'm not gonna lie, it was creepy. You know, all of the stuff on the walls is from March, so all the calendars are kind of frozen in March. There are signs on the door that say, you know, temporarily closed, no entrance, and all that stuff. So I'm just, I guess I personally, I think that the most meaningful way to provide closure for this school year is just really going to be sort of sinking my time into these retrospectives so that the kids can reflect on what went right about this school year instead of this very short period that has gone sideways. We can't lose sight of the fact that we had our students up until the middle of March. So I'm leery about saying we missed the whole school year. No, we had students till the middle of March. So like I said, a lot of reflection, a lot of retrospection. That is what we're doing at our school. I don't know. I mean, I know that a lot of people have lots of different ideas. Also, bringing back to the chat, Ken put some really cool information in the chat. He says he's hidden opportunities for awards in the game that he created for his students. And then his kids are hunting for information, I guess, in this game that he's created. And they tell their friends about it. So really cool ideas to kind of hide stuff. Again, getting people to come to the Google Meets and getting people to stay, right? All right, so how do we marry the physical and virtual to create an instruction environment that has the best of both worlds? When you figure the answer out to that question, please. My email is sevanson@greenville. I'm just kidding with you. Okay, so how do we marry the physical and virtual? So I think sometimes we have to remind our kids, and we have to remind ourselves too, that we have to get outside. So notice, for example, that when I asked you the question a little while ago and I said, what do you think that, what's something that you have never noticed before, for example? And someone put on there, do they notice that the birds are still chirping? In fact, probably more because it's spring and because no one's outside. And so there's just, it's noisy outside. But if you're not outside ever, you don't notice the noise. So asking our students to go outside and get the mail, asking our students to go outside into the backyard and just take a deep breath. And what do they notice in the morning? What do they notice? That air smells and tastes different. Why? So that can kind of bring some of the outside in and then have the kids really reflect on that. This whole virtual learning environment is just different. It's just different. because we're asking the kids to kind of do fake school at home, and their home is not school, and their parents are not you. So I think you bring up a good point, actually, that we want to try to get the kids to marry this physical and virtual environment to create this instructional environment where they can actually kind of learn something. And so that's why I really feel strongly that we need to allow students to think and reflect and pick their own entry points into the creation of this, of whatever we ask them to create. Can we truly connect with our kiddos virtually? I think we can. You know, like I said, for my school, I've been doing a lot with videos and having the kids respond on the Flipgrid. You know, it was interesting. We had a contest at our school, and it was like a dance move Friday or something, and the students had 15 seconds to show off their most awesome dance moves, and they had to upload this video to the Flipgrid. Now, our school has 753 students enrolled currently, and we had almost 100 videos uploaded to the grid. Almost 100 of them participated, and there was one where the student got on and did not dance, and he proceeded to explain how e-learning is horrible, and he hates doing this, and he hates working from home. And so to me, now of course I didn't put that video up on the board, but to me, that was a reach out from that child to say, hey, I need your help. I need an adult to give me some attention because I'm struggling right now at this moment today, which we did. I passed that video along very quickly to our guidance counselor. They reached out to and got the child on the phone, and we were able to connect with that child, and just, he basically said, look, I was having a moment. I was feeling really sad this afternoon. I didn't know why. And so I just want to talk to somebody. So I think we can truly connect with our kiddos virtually. Is it harder? Yes, I think. But can it be done? Absolutely. With the right answers and the right tasks at the right time. How would remote learning affect students, especially in the fall? I think the e-learning and the remote learning that's going on right now, I think is sufficient. I think in the fall, we all know what's going to be asked of us, which is we're going to have to do some preliminary assessment. We're going to have to try to figure out where our students are. We always have some general backslide that happens in the summertime. And I think that we just have to forge ahead and make the best of this. I just hope that it doesn't go on forever. You know, that can be very disheartening. I'm not at all concerned about the academic side of this. I'm far more concerned, if I'm completely being candid, I'm far more concerned about the emotional toll that this is going to have on some of our students. That's my bigger concern. All right, let's see here. Will the students return with a different outlook on learning? And that was my question too. I wonder if the students won't return with a different emotional outlook on learning in school. I'm hopeful that there'll be a different level of gratitude to the magic that we do. That's what I'm hoping. I know that I personally do. I mean, I know that when I return, I'm going to be super thankful for the magic and the work and the humanity around what we do. It is very difficult to be isolated and do this work. You all know that. You all know that. All right, so how will we see them and not wrap our arms around them? I know. Can I just tell you that it's very, I feel you, whoever to put that in there. I have to work the last couple of days at school collecting Chromebooks and things, and talk about the struggle bus. I'm very nervous about this idea because touch is very important to human beings. And I don't know, I try to hug my kids more even when they're being bad and they don't want my hug. I don't care, I'm their mom. But this, you know, it's interesting. How do adolescents ask for hugs and touch and affirmation? You know, they show out, they hang out the car window, depending on how you're going to take up your Chromebooks and materials. There's potential here for some dangerous, you know, sort of interactions in that regard. So it's interesting. I hear you. I hear you. You are heard. I think emotionally, I think that it'll be a challenge, no doubt. All right, let's see here. What other surprises and adventures does 2020 have for us? I hope none. I hope none. I'm surprised and adventured out. I hear there's a snowstorm coming to New England in the next couple of days or whatever. It should be a record-setting, history-making snowstorm, May snowstorm in New England. So if you're joining us from there or you have family in New England, you never know. I guess that's plenty of surprise and adventure. All right. I have on my clock right now, I have 4:26. So I came in right under the wire, y'all. I'm super proud of myself. I want to thank you all for spending this time with me today, having this conversation. I think it's an important one to have. I want to thank SCAMLE for hosting us today for this hour. I think that's awesome that we're doing these webinars and we're talking about some of these big issues and some of these make and take strategies that we can turn around and use tomorrow to help get our students thinking and talking and interacting with us. If we give them a reason to interact, they will interact. They will do that. We just have to give them the right task at the right time and really give them a reason to talk to us. I hope you're feeling, Ken just said he feels inspired. I hope you feel inspired. I'm inspired every single day by the hard work of all of our teachers and our students as well. Everyone is muscling through this as best as they can, and everyone has their moments. I'm a professional educator, have been. This is my 20th year of teaching. I don't think I'm going to forget my 20th year of teaching, by the way, y'all, but my 20th year of teaching and my own child's teacher, I'm not going to lie, I had a meltdown with her a couple days ago because I said, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. I'm my child's mom. I'm not my child's teacher. You are. And so it's great responsibility on all of us, and it's very heavy, but it's very, very rewarding. So I hope you all have enjoyed our time together. If you what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to go ahead and share my contact information one last time. Let's find it. Okay. And if you're sorting out some things to do with your students and you want to bounce off some ideas or you want some additional ideas, go ahead and email me. Would love to talk and chat further, and would be happy to help in any way that I possibly can. So there's my contact information one more time. And again, thank you all so very much for joining us at this webinar. And thank you to my host, the South Carolina Association for Middle Level Education. Please stay tuned to your email as well as to social media for additional webinars in this May sessions series. We have 2 coming up next week. Talking about special education on Thursday, which is very important, how to conduct a virtual IEP meeting, how to meet the needs of our special education students. That's Thursday. Tuesday's webinar is how to get students to come to your Google Meet sessions and stay, and how to increase your level of student engagement. Very important. So definitely you don't want to miss those. We have 2 additional ones coming the following week. I don't want to let those out of the bag just yet, but really, really excellent topics. We have some individuals who are going to be talking about our ELL population and how to close out the school year for them, and looking forward, what are some kind of ideas that we can kind of think take to best meet their needs moving forward. And I believe some more special education stuff coming, so that's really good. And then of course, the end of our series will be Jack, and he's going to talk with you about a variety of topics, and I'm sure that you'll laugh and won't want to miss that. So don't delete the SCAMLE emails, and come join us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter for all the latest. Thank you all so very much.